Okay, take two. My name is Jennifer Williams. I live in Wayne County, New York, and I am determined to bring more focus to local government, especially in New York State. Thank you so much for tuning in to my brand new YouTube channel. And in that stream, I am sitting down with Summer Johnson, the supervisor of Marion, to discuss a recent Republican caucus that happened here in Marion. So, welcome, Summer.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jen. And we are, as you can see in the background, we are blessed with a beautiful view of downtown Marion, New York, where we've spent a lot of time, money, energy, and resources to enhance the intersection, enhance our Main Street. Very proud of that. So, enjoy the view. In the meantime, we did have a recent Republican caucus that took place last Friday on May 30th. Leading up to that, though, Marion was a designated petitioning town.
Petitioning town, what does that mean?
So that means that any candidate who wanted to run on a party line could take a petition and go door to door and get the required amount of signatures, submit it, and once that petition was accepted, you were on the ballot in that party. Barring anyone else who also submitted that same party petition, there would be a primary force at that point.
Yeah, so anyone can do it, and if more than one candidate did a petition, submitted it, then that would force a primary election before the general.
Correct. That usually happened in June.
I got
So, there's been a lot of ramblings and rumblings around the Wayne County GOP party and their hopes to switch every town to a caucusing town to avoid these primaries, which do cost money and resources, of course. We're aware of that. So, as of late, I believe there's only 2 towns left in Wayne County who are still a designated petitioning town for the Republican Party. Marion, as of recently, was changed back to a caucus in the fall of 2024, October of 2024.
Yeah, I've lived here long enough to know that there has been the petitioning process for the Republican Party since I've lived here. This was the first caucus I've ever heard about, let alone, attended. So this is new. So I know that there's some chatter saying that, Wayne County has always been a caucus, versus petition. But, our own lived experiences say that that's not true.
Correct. And the problem too being is, political minds have short memories.
Yeah.
And so if
That's very true.
if you mix in COVID
Yeah.
and the political climate the past 5 years, no one would notice that the nomination process was changed to Marion over the past 5 years. We've had a slight shift in our demographics, from our age demographics, more of the middle age families and people here. And so, if you're not active in the political scheme of things, then
Go ahead.
then you have no idea that what's
Yeah.
happening. And so, so they switched it, the GOP committee switched it to a caucus in October 2024, which would be slightly after a year of my first term
Yeah.
here in Marion as town supervisor.
Yeah, let's get into that. How long have you served as town supervisor?
So I am in the middle of I'm in my second year of my first term.
Okay.
The town of Marion supervisor is a 2-year term. So last my election on the Republican line as the Republican candidate. It was a close race. It was a fun race.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
To campaign and be out there and talking to people. Excuse me. But I did win.
Yeah.
Nevertheless,
Yeah.
I did win, and I was sworn into office in January of 2024. With that being said, there were a lot of people, I would say internally, that were disappointed in the results, that did not want to see me win,
Yeah.
that were really sure.
Change is hard.
Change is very hard.
Especially in a small community.
It is. But I took that with a grain of salt, and I was going to make the best of it.
Yeah.
Until there started being kind of secret stuff being talked about at the about how they were going to change from a designated petitioning town to a caucus.
Yeah.
I reached out to the Wayne County Republican Party chair, Marion,
Yeah.
several times.
Several times.
I even spoke with her in person several times about Wayne. You know, every time I spoke on it, it was always, well, it's not done yet, but they want to do it.
Yeah.
That was always the comment I got.
Yeah.
It's not done yet, but they want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Being the last time, January of 2025 this year, when I announced I was running for re-election, I did the proper thing like any loyal party person would do, and I saw my county chair, and I went up to her and I said, I'm running for re-election.
Yeah.
You know, have you heard anybody want to run or any news?
Right.
No. That's when I was told, well, they really want to change it to caucus.
Who's they?
The town of Marion Republican Committee.
And have you heard any chatter locally, petition versus caucus at all?
No.
Was that a topic of conversation in the hub
No.
of the political voice of Marion?
No, not at all, up to this point. So I said, well, Marianne, you know, they've been talking about it for a long time. We'll see what happens. But my understanding was, because we were already now in the new election season in 2025, that wouldn't take place.
Yeah.
So when I was told, oh, it hasn't happened, but they want to,
Yeah.
I was under the impression that it was still a designated petitioning. I had to foil my local board of elections
FOIL is Freedom of Information Law, which is like sunshine laws, open government laws, just so everyone understands what FOIL is. FOIA is the national or federal level open meeting laws or open document laws. So state FOIL, Freedom of Information Law, same thing, tomato, it's the same thing. It's, you can request most government documents, emails, and such communications from any government official, elected or appointed. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah. Well, so I left that conversation with my GOP chair in January kind of confused and not feeling the greatest. I call it my spidey senses. When something just doesn't feel right. And so I foiled the local Wayne County Board of Elections. I was looking for some information. A couple things. I wanted to see their bylaws on how their committee was ran. I wanted to see up-to-date current committee member list, so I know who I have to talk to. And then I also,
Hang on one second. I think it's important to recognize that your background is, you are a paralegal. You have a background in policy making. You've written bills. You have gotten bills sponsored at the state level. So when you request such things as bylaws, this isn't it's not a whimsical thing that you're doing. It's
purposeful.
Yes, you are a person who research is important, facts are important, and so when you request a bylaw, the bylaws of any organization, it's because you want to know their operating procedure.
Right.
Basically, like getting it from the horse's mouth per se versus hearsay.
And you want to play by the rules.
Right. You want to play by the rules. Okay.
You want to know the rules.
I think it's important to understand why you would request the bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's not to find fault with anything or anybody. Right. It's just to know the rules so I can learn and I can become more educated on how to interact with these agencies. And then I also requested, hey, have they, because up to January of 2025, if you went to the Board of Elections website, they have a list. They will break down what towns are caucuses and what are petitions. And they have a list. As of 2025, that list reflected Marion as a petitioning Republican town. Okay. So all the ramblings I was hearing, I was like, this isn't adding up.
Yeah.
So I also I asked our Board of Elections, hey, did they file to change Marion from a petitioning town to a caucus town? And not only was that answer, they did it in October of 2024.
Okay, so it's definitely recent. It's not
it's very
decades
recent.
or even years of pattern of being a caucus.
Very recent. And the fact that this action happened in October of 2024, and 3 months later, I was speaking to the committee chair and asked her to her face if that was being changed, and she says, no, they want to.
Yeah, and who's they? I guess Okay, Marianne is the head of the Republican Party in Wayne County. Who's the head of the Republican, or the county, the town chair
Yeah.
for Marion?
That is Roy Frank.
Okay, so there is someone
Yes.
locally within Marion who
Yes.
is representing the Republican Party.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
He has been the Marion chair for quite a while, if not co-chair or vice chair for a long time. So when I found that information out, of course I was naturally disappointed in my party, because why just wouldn't you tell me, yeah, we changed it to a caucus?
Right.
You know, because in my opinion, just like you, I'm only 41 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been in politics for 5 years. I have no experience with caucuses. I know what they are.
Yeah, Iowa. You can't think of Iowa without caucus. Yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
watch it on the national stage.
Yeah.
I know how in my political fantasy land how
Yeah.
I want them to happen.
Yeah.
Right. But I've never actually experienced one.
Yeah, I know. I was excited. At first I was like, okay, petition to caucus. Well, I mean, it's 2025.
Right.
Do people actually show? I mean, you can't go to any area of volunteerism or, community activity without people saying that they're hemorrhaging for volunteers.
Right.
Or people in person. So it seemed odd that in this current streaming and, social media based, or, that we would have an in-person type of, political activity without a lot of fanfare letting people know that that's what's happening. And so I was really, at first I was like, okay, but then I kind of, acceptance, all the levels of grief or whatever, I went and I became excited. I'm like, oh, I've only ever heard about caucuses because of at the national scene, living in New York, Iowa, always being the forefront of national politics. So attending a local caucus, I actually became very excited to do it. I was really excited to see the interaction between community members that have civil discourse.
Right. No, same here. I came to acceptance as well.
Yeah.
And as you know, I'm very boots on the ground, very grassroots.
Oh, yeah.
My method of politicking is talking to people. We're here at our local Stonehenge coffee shop, and when I come in here, there's been times we've met and I get hung up for 20 minutes, half hour, because I'm just talking to people, meeting them. Yeah. I enjoy that aspect. So to your point, I was excited to get the opportunity to maybe even talk to people at the caucus who don't know me, who are we're Republicans. We're all Republicans. We're all there for the same reason. However, the malicious disregard or omitting of information to the Republican incumbent from the party was very off-putting. And it left a really bad in my mouth, and it kind of sent up red flags of what is going on in the right now. Right. And so I had at this point in January of 2025, no one I knew of was running for supervisor.
Okay.
Okay. There were some talks. There has been for decades here.
Right.
There's tons of people say, oh, I want to do it. Oh, I don't want to do it. It goes back and forth.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm the incumbent, I'm the Republican. I have a strong presence at the county level. I'm respected. I have friends there. I've worked really hard to earn my chair position for the Health and Medical Committee. They've trusted me to handle those departments. Things are great. So I was like, this should be easy peasy.
Yeah.
Lemon squeezy, as they say.
Right.
That wasn't the case.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. It was, so leading up to that point, I've reached out to my town of Marion chair, Roy Frank, multiple times via
And
email.
how did you do that?
Via email.
Email. You were sorry.
Yeah, via email. So I reached out to him personally, requesting a meeting, to no response. I followed up, no response. Then I started including the county chair, Marianne, into those communications.
Yeah. Seems reasonable.
Proper escalation.
Right.
Procedures.
Right.
And
Chain of command, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I started including her, and what I found odd was the responses I was getting back from Marianne. She was speaking for Roy. She would say things like, well, isn't that right, Roy? Like waiting for him to jump in to the email thread, and he never did.
Never did. That's interesting.
Never did. I have 6 emails unresponded.
just general, like, how does a caucus run?
Yeah,
Like, just general information.
Well, one email is, I told Marianne, like, hey, I know how a caucus is ran, but how are you running it?
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect from this?
Mhm.
Like, what are you guys looking for?
Mhm.
And my responses I got back, some of them were like, well, I'm gonna run it the way I've been running it for 2 decades.
Well, that's very transparent.
Let's do the math. I'm 41 years old.
Yeah,
How am I supposed to know at 20 years old,
yeah,
not living in Marion, how Marianne
yeah,
McCarthy runs caucuses?
yeah.
I was busy taking care of my 1-year-old when I was 20.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it didn't seem like it was a backhanded question. It was
No.
very direct, like, what do I expect? And as a candidate, to me, that seems like a natural thing that you would want. Okay, I'm gonna show up. I wanna put my best foot forward.
Best foot.
So give me the specifics of what to expect.
Mhm.
I don't think it was untoward in any way, or a jab, or nefarious in any way.
No.
You as an incumbent Republican town supervisor seeking the Republican nomination again, I don't think that was outlandish for you to request, what does a caucus look like?
Absolutely not. And being a loyal party line
Yeah.
candidate as well, I was expecting a lot more proactiveness from the party,
Yeah.
reaching out and saying, hey, this is what we need to do.
Mhm.
Like, you do have a challenger, they're gonna support you, they're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
knock on doors, they're gonna put information out there for you, they're
Yeah.
gonna support their incumbent. The complete opposite.
Mm.
The complete opposite for some reason. And in their bylaws, it's interesting because in their bylaws, it says that the town chair for the Republican Party, so each town chair, their responsibility is to promote,
Mhm.
engage, caucus for Republican candidates,
Mhm.
and let it be known that this is happening. To that point, the level of the engagement and or reaction to the caucus was about 140 people showed up.
Mhm. And how many registered Republicans live in Marion?
So the last voter roll that I have is from January 2025, and that is 1,515.
And how many showed up again?
140.
That math ain't mathin'.
Yeah, it's about 9%.
Yeah.
9% of the Republican voters
Wow.
showed up to the
So,
caucus.
and regardless of the outcome at this
Right.
point,
Right.
would you be satisfied or encouraged by that turnout?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, as
Absolutely
someone who
not.
likes to engage, as you
Yeah.
said, yeah.
I've been spoiled because when I ran for office the first time, we had record number turnout
Mm-hmm.
for the election.
Mm.
Record number. Speaking of Roy Frank, our town chair, that's the last time I talked to him, was election night.
Wow.
When he called me to congratulate me for winning, and that he was so excited for the record number turnout that we brought out
Oh, wow.
from our campaign.
Wow.
That
He congratulated
He did
you.
congratulate me, yes,
Wow.
yeah.
And so something has changed in the tone.
So between about, I would say, 9 months,
Mhm.
there's been some kind of shift,
Mhm.
behind closed doors, of course, because
Yeah.
nothing's brought to my attention.
Yeah.
No one reaches out to me with problems, concerns,
Yeah.
issues. And so, with the past election, with record number turnout, I polled 26% of the Republican voters
Mhm.
came out to vote for me. That's almost triple
Yeah.
what showed up to our caucus.
Wow.
So to say the silent majority is in existence
Yeah.
is absolutely accurate.
Yeah.
And I'm just a little disappointed that, the party is pleased
Right.
with that result.
So how did they advertise the caucus to get voters?
Yeah.
The party, I'm talking about the
The
party, not
party.
the individual candidates.
Mhm.
How did the party try to engage the community and get them to participate in a caucus?
So bare minimum, they did the bare minimum. You have to post legal notices
And so in the local paper.
in the local paper.
The Times of Wayne County.
The Times of Wayne County, which has a 10%, rotation rate throughout the whole county, 10%.
Mhm.
You have to post it there.
Mhm.
You also post it in town hall.
Mhm.
It's a blank sheet of paper, just gives you the date and what it is.
So it's like a legal notice.
It's like a legal notice.
It's not,
Yeah.
a colorful
No.
ad or, flyers. People generally, when they make flyers, they want to be eye-catching. So
Yes,
people,
right.
if they are in town and they see something hanging in a window,
Mhm.
they're going to, oh, what is that? the legal notice, people it's just words on a page and they walk right by.
Just words on a page.
Mhm.
It was also posted in 10 or 11 public sites throughout the town of Marion. Local businesses, here at the coffee shop, on their billboard, so it is put out to the public,
Yeah,
quote unquote.
yeah.
However, the Wayne County Republican Committee also has a Facebook page,
Mhm.
and it was never posted there.
Interesting. Are any caucuses posted on
No.
there? So how many towns are in Wayne County?
15.
I mean, if you're looking for content for your Facebook page, I mean, there's 15 posts right there.
Right.
I mean, if you have a Facebook page looking to engage people on social media, why, that seems like such a missed opportunity
Right.
to actually get an activated Republican consensus
Right.
for any kind of activity. That's unfortunately seems to be on
Now,
par.
we see better engagement from other towns
Yeah,
for their town level Republican committee.
yeah,
We see way better engagement from Walworth,
yeah,
Wilson,
yeah,
even Farmington. I know it's Ontario County, but
Yeah.
they're very active.
yeah.
They have chicken barbecues. They
Yeah.
do meet the candidates. They do fundraising.
Really?
Yes.
At the local
At the
level?
local level.
I'm talking about like town
Yes.
level.
Yes. It's amazing what they're doing. And what happens is those funds that are raised are supposed to support good vetted Republican candidates in those districts.
Right. And what's the main reason for the caucus versus the petitioning?
Nobody knows.
Mm.
I've asked that question multiple times. I've talked to different party chairs in Wayne County. I've talked to the Democrat Party chair. I've talked to the Conservative Party chair. I've asked all the same questions, and you know who is yet still to contact me? Is our Republican Party chair
Interesting.
after the caucus.
And just to be clear, you are a member of the Republican
I
Party.
am a very strong, vocal member of the Republican Party. And
Elected.
elected.
So that's considered
Republican.
like political success.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. And I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
I take my role very seriously. So, leading up to the caucus, to your point, regardless of the outcome, to me, the outcome wasn't, in my opinion, was not successful. Not only because, they didn't support their incumbent candidate,
Right.
but because of the sheer amount of people who showed up.
Right.
I don't see that, I don't see
Right.
9.2% as a
Right.
success.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not success to me. And getting into the actual day of the caucus,
Right.
I mean, geez, we could do part 2 and part 3.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it was chaotic,
Yeah.
it was disorganized,
Did you feel
It
when you
was
walked onto the
it was
when you
open
walked-
to the whole park, anyone from
Yeah,
any
anybody,
direction can walk
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. So when you're arriving on for the caucus, you're an actual candidate.
Mhm.
Everyone knows that you're a candidate, and
Yes.
you're basically saying you didn't feel prepared
Correct.
to have just a foundational knowledge of what was going to take place in the next hour or two.
Right, right. And when I did show up, which is fine, I am very good at adjusting.
Yeah.
Check and adjust real quick. I'm very good at pivoting on that.
Yeah.
So, I knew I was getting very little, if any, information at all from
Yeah.
my party. I came into that knowing that.
Yeah.
So I kept an open mind and being flexible. Like anything could be thrown at me at any minute
Yeah.
at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah.
But when I showed up and I did talk and made contact with the Republican Party chair, Marion, about hi,
Yeah.
welcome.
Uh-huh.
She didn't shake my hand.
Mm.
She didn't say good luck. She didn't give me the rules. She didn't, tell me like, this is how we're gonna do it. This
Yeah.
is, get your people prepared. Even to the point where my opponent and all the other Republican candidates in the town of Marion.
Okay, because this wasn't just for town
No,
supervisor.
right. There was multiple
Yeah,
positions.
the town clerk is up for election. Town board members are up for election. Highway
Highway
superintendent is also up
And
for
a
election.
judge.
And a judge.
Yes.
So there was several candidates, or
Yes.
for those positions up for.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And, it was blatantly clear that those candidates were prepared.
Yeah.
To the point of when Marianne started reading the rules off of the caucus. So the caucus started at 7 p.m. sharp.
Mm-hmm.
She hit her little red gavel, and she read off the rules of the caucus.
Yeah.
But leading up to that point, she told my camp, and I'm assuming along with everybody else, that there was going to be no open debate,
Yeah.
no discussions, no questions being asked between the candidates and
Mhm.
people. So pretty much this open caucus was a closed caucus.
Well, to your point, what I heard Marianne specifically
Mm-hmm.
say was, she yelled it out. I mean, we're in a town park, so she didn't have a mic system, so
Right.
she vocalized, and she's no shrinking violet by any stretch of the yelled out, this was a polling place. No electioneering could take place 500 feet from a polling place. I do believe the law actually is 100 feet, not 500 feet, but I didn't understand or agree with a caucus is a polling station.
No.
That's not the spirit of what a caucus should be.
It is contradictory to call a caucus and then say no electioneering
Yeah.
in the same sentence.
Yeah,
Because caucuses are a very methodical
Yeah.
process.
in person for a reason.
It's in person because you're allowed to campaign and electioneer and
Yeah.
promote yourself.
Right.
To gain more
Right.
supporters.
So like
That's
you,
the whole point.
right. So I'm thinking if I'm just a Marion Republican and I don't know anything about the candidates, but I want to know.
Right.
I'm going to come. Oh, great! They're going to be here. I have a captive audience. Let me ask some questions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, by her announcing that there's no electioneering, people couldn't. People were intimidated.
Yes.
They didn't understand what that meant
No.
because someone was even wearing a pin for your opponent, Mike Kramer,
Mhm.
and she was told, "Oh, remove the pin because there's no electioneering." To my knowledge, wearing a pin for any candidate is not electioneering,
And especially at a caucus.
especially at a caucus.
Has she gone to a caucus?
So it's like, okay, I mean,
I mean, big Republican,
Yeah.
leader.
so when you hear like you can't even wear a pin, especially for people who are kind of newer, because again, this is the first caucus that has been held in whoever knows how long.
Mhm.
When you hear that kind of thing, it's kind of intimidating, and like, oh, well, maybe I'm not supposed to do anything, say anything.
Right.
And so anyone who may have come in with, oh, I want to hear from the candidates, they're now silenced,
Yes.
and they're just sitting there. And that's literally what I saw happening, was just a lot of people just sitting
It
around
was, yeah,
waiting for what's going to happen
Yeah.
next.
yeah. It was very melancholy.
Yeah.
It was very melancholy.
Yeah.
The
And I was,
environment.
to be honest, I was very disappointed. And yeah, so keep telling your story so
Yeah.
we can keep going. Sorry, I could go off on
Oh, yeah.
tangents.
Yeah. Well, to the point of, what really then at the end of the day, when we're in the midst of the caucus and my supporters were not told, even when they signed up to be my nominator or my second, even at that point, they weren't told, you have 2 minutes to speak on behalf of your candidate. They
So-
weren't even told that when they were signing up.
So how did that Marion came
She
to
came
you?
around, she came to me with a clipboard,
Uh-huh.
and she wanted to know who was gonna nominate me and
Okay.
who was gonna second me.
Okay, and so she wrote them down.
And she wrote them
apparently?
down.
Okay,
And she walked away.
okay, that was
That was it.
At this point, that's the only information you got
Yes.
about how this caucus is going
Correct.
to go.
Correct.
Okay.
She didn't even tell me that I could have multiple seconds, like my
Oh.
other candidates had.
Interesting.
Right.
Really?
Really.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. There were multiple seconds that stood up for certain candidates that were able to give their 2-minute speeches of why they were seconding and supporting
Wow,
the
so
candidate.
that seconding is actually an opportunity to give support.
Right. If you were strategic, you could have 10 people seconding you with 2 minutes each.
Yeah, that's 20 minutes of content.
Right.
Wow,
Right.
wow.
So obviously my camp was not prepared
Yeah.
in that behalf.
Yeah.
God bless my husband for
Yeah, he did a great job.
putting up with this.
Yeah.
Because he's medical, he's not
Yeah.
political at all.
Yeah.
But he did a great job. He got really fired up, and it kind of hurt my heart though, because we went home, and he told me, he's like, he apologized. He's like, I'm
Aw.
sorry I didn't do better. And of course I would never fault anybody for being put in that position.
Yeah,
But he's like, I just got up. He's like, when I stood up and I looked around, I just saw so many nasty people who hate you
yeah,
and want to see you fail. That he's like, I got so upset
yeah.
at that I
Yeah.
couldn't even speak.
Wow, yeah,
And I'm like, well, that's the climate.
yeah.
I can't really help that.
Right.
And that was the process, and the outcome is what it is. But the way it was practiced was definitely well planned out and strategized with everyone but myself.
Yeah.
To the point where all the Republican candidates who are running for office this year, they had people doing mailings.
Yeah.
With all the Republican candidates except me.
Yeah.
They had flyers listing all the Republican candidates except me.
Yeah.
They all met. They all seconded each other and nominated each other.
Yeah.
Roy Frank, our own town Marion chair, I can't remember if he nominated or second, but he nominated.
He seconded quite a bit.
He seconded my opponent
Yeah.
for supervisor.
Yeah.
After not talking to me for 15 months.
Yeah. So, it was becoming really clear.
Really clear what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
It was a political
Yeah.
takedown.
So it's politics. We're not Pollyanna in the aspect of it, but there is like a level of respect that should be expected from your party leaders.
Yeah.
Roy didn't have to support you. He didn't.
No.
But as the Marion GOP chair, he should have respected the office that he holds, and anyone who came forward to tell him, I am interested in running for office, I believe it's his ethical obligation to inform each candidate, okay, this is the process,
Yeah.
this is what to expect. Not, it's just giving information.
It's just information sharing.
Yeah, information. It's a respect for the office that he holds.
Right.
And Marianne as well.
And part of
I'm not letting her off the hook.
and part of being a chair or part of being part of the committee is that educational aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're educating your voters, you're gaining more voters, you're gaining more party
Yeah.
votes. That's part of it. Engagement.
Yeah.
And they don't do that.
Yeah.
And part of the point, 5 years ago when I started on the scene and I was talking to all different party chairs and wanting to run and find an office somewhere to run for.
Yeah.
I was down, shut up and wait your turn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been involved with politics enough, especially locally. Yeah, that thing.
That's a thing.
And so I would think that the fact that you won your last election,
Right.
it is your turn.
Yes.
It is your turn.
Exactly.
And I have to say, listen, we are friends outside of this, so people are going to say that, I'm biased for you, and that's fine. You can have your opinion. But I also am a very fair-minded person, and when you had your flyers, your digital flyers that you put out trying to engage the community, you had all the incumbents for the town clerk, the town board, anybody who was sitting in the seat, you included them as come and support.
Yeah.
The Mike Kramer's crowd, they were the incumbents and they put Mike Kramer as. He was the only one who wasn't an incumbent.
Right.
Well, maybe they had the highway superintendent. I don't think they put the highway superintendent.
They
did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't pay attention to that. That ballot.
But they intentionally left off the incumbent Republican candidate who was running for office. They all knew. I made it very public. It was in the paper. It was on my Facebook page.
Right. and to comment, these people don't support you.
No.
But they are the incumbents, and you respected the office that they filled
Absolutely.
and wanted to support them.
Absolutely.
Moving forward.
Absolutely. Because,
that
there's
sounds so hostile of you.
I'm loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
Right? I'm loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
I mean, I will get beaten, browbeaten,
Yeah.
put down, yelled at, harassed,
Yeah.
threatened, and I will still sit there and say, well, this is what's right.
Yeah.
And this is what's wrong. It's
Yeah.
night and day. But I know we've been talking for a while, but one of the other things I wanted to bring up though was, the fact that one of the big things that really hit me, and I reached out to a couple of my friends across New York State who are involved in different party politics.
Okay.
And I disclosed to them how there was a registered and office-held Democrat at the Republican Caucus going around and campaigning for my opponent or electioneering, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
To the point where it made me uncomfortable to discuss or bring up party line issues that we should feel safe enough as a party to discuss openly with all registered Republicans, but I didn't because there was a Democrat there who was very verbally and physically anti-Summer Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That made me very uncomfortable to watch. Now, when I reached out to my friend down in Rockland County, who's been a chair of his district for the Libertarian Party for years, he worked with Larry Sharp, he drove into campaigns, he's been very active in that party. You know, he was flabbergasted by that, And
That was unusual for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
The Republican Caucus, I wouldn't expect a elected Democrat
right,
to be there. That's not, when people think of bipartisan, that's not bipartisan. This is a party event.
right. And,
Yeah.
and the way they get around that is it's open. It's an open caucus.
Yeah.
Well, then why are we having a secret ballot?
Yeah, yeah,
You can't
Yeah.
have it all ways,
Right.
you know? But he enlightened me and said, even at the libertarian level, which is a lesser, lower numbered attended party,
sure.
but even at that level, their meetings, their caucuses, their committees, if you're not a libertarian, you have to be formally invited
Mm-hmm.
by a member.
Mm-hmm.
You are there and you cannot speak.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot partake. If you want to, you have to get committee vote
Yeah,
to address
yeah,
the committee, the caucus, and they take those meetings in those times
Yeah.
to form together as a party very sacred. It's,
yeah,
you know, to me, it's like, why don't you just, you know, you're letting the wolf into the
Yeah.
hen house.
yeah. And if we haven't clarified it before now, this Republican caucus in Marion was held at the town park. It was an open air meeting.
Air meeting.
Anybody walking around the park,
Yep.
walking their dog or otherwise, could view and witness, and nobody was told.
Or even walk in and vote.
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
not?
yeah. 'Cause-
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
So they were handing out envelopes
yeah,
with ballots, aka index cards.
blown away by that. Blown
However,
away.
if you looked in the envelope, there was 4 or 5 index cards in
Yeah.
there, but only one contested race.
Yeah,
So how easy it would be for anyone to get
Yeah.
a hold of an index card,
Yeah.
just walking around in the
Right.
park
yeah,
and cast their vote.
right,
We don't have a voter roll.
Mm.
I don't have a sign-in sheet of who was there, who was checked
Yeah.
in.
right,
I'll be foiling those
yeah,
from the committee. I want to see who signed in
yeah.
and who was there.
Right, yeah. And I tried to be a observer of the town, and because I don't live in Marion Town proper, I was told that I could not observe. I mean, I did not hear any declaration about a requirement of being a
No.
Marion resident.
No,
I mean, there was no requirement to be a registered Republican to be at the caucus.
no,
I mean, anybody could attend.
right.
And when Marion announced, you know, anyone can come in and observe, I took that as anyone.
Yeah.
So I walked in, and Marion knows who I am. She'll say that she has no ill feelings toward me. I will beg to differ on that. But you know, whatever. So I walk in to observe, and she immediately tells me, along with a lot of the other people in the room, that I had no right to be
Yeah.
there.
Right.
And so I did make a snarky comment as I left. I said, well, this is what it looks like when you make up the rules as you go along.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what I felt like the entire caucus was. When you do look at the bylaws, it's very generic on how a caucus is conducted. So it's really open-ended. You can pretty much do whatever you want.
But what's great with the bylaws is
Yeah.
they kicked you out because you weren't a Marion resident.
Yeah.
You couldn't be my poll watcher.
Yeah,
However, in their bylaws for party nominations during committee meetings,
yeah,
you don't even have to be part of the committee. Any registered Republican Wayne County resident can show up and
Oh.
make a nomination for anyone on the
Wow.
floor.
wow. But, okay, so anyone can make a nomination, but only the town residents can observe?
Right, right.
That's splitting hairs.
That's split again. It's
So
like
you're right.
secret ballots and open caucus.
Yeah.
I mean, they go hand in hand, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but needless to say, it left a really nasty taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Very disappointed. Very kind of hurt. I'm hurt and frustrated with the process.
Yeah,
You know, and then to add salt to the wound, sitting in my office yesterday, you know, right across the street here, beautiful town hall, I was served with a formal specific objections to my independent petition by my opponent. And Roy Frank, the town of Marion GOP chair.
so you didn't get so there's different party lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's Republican, Democrat, Conservative, non-affiliated. So
Right.
you in addition to trying to get the Republican line, you filled out the petitions
Yes.
to be an independent
Yes.
candidate.
96 signatures were required for an independent candidate, which was increased because of my record number turnout of voters last year.
Job well done.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
hurt yourself sometimes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, what can I say?
Yeah.
It was 91, but now it's 96.
Yeah. Okay, so you were served
yeah.
with objections.
Objections
So by Roy Franks,
by Roy Frank, representing Mike Kramer,
who is the opponent or
opponent.
other person running for town
Yes,
supervisor.
that's correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And is that common?
No, it's not. I immediately reached out to the Board of Elections, pulled them right up. I know those ladies there. I respect their office. I tell them that.
Yeah.
You know, anybody can call them up and say, you know, how does Summer treat you?
Yeah,
And they'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, and we had a quick conversation, and we went through the objections real quick.
Mhm.
Kind of went through a couple things. I wanted to clarify some
Yeah.
things. They were very helpful.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, you know, they're like, well, we have to have a meeting because we like never deal with this.
Yeah. Huh.
We have to figure out, you know, we got to make sure we're doing what we need to do because it's such a rare occurrence at
Yeah.
this level
Wow.
of government.
So basically, there's no Democrat running for town supervisor.
No.
At this point, it's only you and Mike who have declared candidacy,
Right.
and the deadline has passed
Yes.
for independent.
Yes,
So the only competition Mike has is you,
correct,
and so removing you from the independent line would basically mean that this would be an uncontested
correct.
Election, and Mike would just sail. He
Yep.
could get one vote in November,
Correct.
and he would be the town
Correct.
supervisor. That's abhorrent
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
That is election and interference and petty to the
Right.
ninth degree.
So the party of constitutional freedoms, you know, now the Republican Party
Uh-huh.
that I've experienced here
Yeah,
in my corner of the world, the party of constitutional protected freedoms,
yeah,
voter rights,
right.
has now become the party of 9%
Mhm.
of the population represent you, and we're going to remove opposition from the ballot.
Wow,
To me,
that's deplorable to me.
that sounds more of the liberal ideologies that we've been seeing in
Yeah.
the legal and warfare
Yeah,
in our political climate in recent days. You can't figure it out. I mean, I allowed Mr. Kramer to run against me the first time as an independent.
meaning that you didn't challenge his petition.
I did not challenge his
At the
petition.
last election, you got the GOP line.
That's right.
He didn't make it, he didn't understand
No.
he didn't participate in the
No.
petitioning,
No.
which is how you got on the ballot the first time, was
Exactly.
through a petition,
Yeah.
not a caucus.
Right.
You got through, he didn't, whatever, and so you said, yeah,
That's fine.
independent, let's go. Oh, didn't even challenge it, let's go.
Didn't challenge it because I would never resort to using up resources
Mhm.
at this level of government
Yeah,
to challenge a local candidate.
yeah,
Okay, these are games that the state and federal level
yeah,
players play.
yeah.
And usually at that level, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees also to fight and battle these kind of challenges
Mhm.
that happen. Are you allowed, is it your right to challenge and object to petitions and legal filings? Absolutely.
Yeah.
No one's saying it's not.
Yeah.
But should you, at this level of government, take up now 2, 3, 4 commissioners' time at the Board of Elections during
Yeah.
primary season?
Right, because if cost is a factor
Right.
in an election.
Right, and my
Yeah.
question is too, who's paying Roy Frank to
Yeah.
represent Mike Kramer?
Yeah,
Is it the Republican committee?
yeah,
Are they paying him money?
yeah. Can he do that pro bono?
I have no
But
idea.
even though it's an in-kind,
Right.
yeah.
Who paid the $62 in mailing fees to the USPS for overnight mail? These are questions I have that come up when people challenge, the validity of a candidate in my petition. But hopefully I maintain on the independent line. I got over the amount of signatures I needed. The state has already ruled also that you cannot remove a signature with a missing date.
Yeah,
So a lot of that was their objections. Some of them may be removed, ineligible address or
right. But that's why
that's why you get more
than required,
signatures,
in case anything is, yeah.
right. You expect some inconsistencies to happen.
So wrap this up.
Yeah.
People might say, oh my gosh, Summer, this is just par for the course with her. She's just very difficult, and this is just sour grapes on her part.
Mhm.
To those people, to those neighbors, what is is this pettiness? Is this sour grapes because you didn't win the Republican caucus? Or what is this? why are you speaking out at this point?
That's a really good question. It's almost as good as a question I would like to ask my opponent why he's running for supervisor, but no one's gotten a chance to. I am speaking out in this, and I've also wrote an op-ed I shared with local media stations as well. I'm speaking out because our political party's future here in New York is already strained. It's devastated, okay? And the fact that we have systematic processes in place to denounce, discredit, slander, put down, remove up-and-coming, young, intelligent women leaders is disgraceful to me. Absolutely disgraceful. Playing the games behind the doors, talking to people, conniving, scheming, that's all fine. That's politics. I get it.
Right.
I'm in it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. But I draw the line at resorting to top echelon political tactics in a little old town like Marion.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to post, you write a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, no one has ever have. Okay.
Against you?
Against me. Okay.
Well, hold on now. Because now you've introduced the idea.
Go ahead. Because, I welcome debate and discussions and political discussions.
Civil discourse, I think it's called.
Come to my door, come to my office, call me. Let's talk about it.
But there's the office
there it is right there.
Main Street, Marion.
I love this little town. Me and my husband moved here 9 years ago. We absolutely love being here. It's quiet, it's peaceful. We through it in 30 seconds. The traffic's great. We participate here. We live here. We are also freaking citizens here in Marion.
Yeah.
And I'm a taxpayer as well. I'm not just a town supervisor. I am a taxpayer.
Yeah.
And every dollar, every tax dollar counts. And I believe Marion is heading in the wrong direction. We're going backwards because of the political shadows that want to play games. And I will speak up on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
So it's the processes of the leadership. It could be, because I feel this way too, that if the caucus, if the processes were fair and advertised and it was a level playing field for anybody who wanted to run, you didn't win the GOP line, but we could live with it.
Yeah.
Because it was fair and transparent. But that's not even what happened. My own personal experience at the caucus was there was a person who nominated Mike, your opponent. And so after the caucus, I thought, oh, well, she nominated Mike. I wanted to ask her, when did she know, the processes and procedures on how to do that? So I just went up to her, and in the past, we've been friendly.
Yeah.
Very, very friendly. And so I went up and said, hey, I just want to know, when did you know that you were going to nominate Mike? And how to do that? She goes, why are you asking? That was the first question. Why are you asking?
Yeah.
And her husband was sitting next to her, who I also had a very friendly relationship with in the past, and got kind of aggravated to me. I'm like, I'm just asking a question because we feel very unprepared. And so I want to know, did you find out when you first got here too? And they kept talking over me and didn't even give me an opportunity to speak. It was just really aggressive toward me that I was even talking to them at the caucus. And that really was disappointing to me, not only on a professional level of wanting to know the process, but on a personal level.
Very personal level.
It's like this got personal.
Very quickly.
And they knew me enough to know that my political activities in the area this is what I do.
Yeah.
It's not like I was coming at them. I wasn't looking to attack anybody.
Right.
And my reputation with them should have superseded the question.
Right.
And it didn't.
It didn't.
And
my message is, regardless of the outcome, I can care less if I'm the Republican candidate. I will campaign against anyone on any line at any moment because my message is honest.
Yeah.
And it's based on values and principles, not town business.
Yeah.
Okay? Not who to make happy.
Yeah.
Not who's in my friend corner, who's not.
Yeah.
And 140 people that showed up at the caucus does not represent Marion. You are not
9%.
9% who showed up on the voter roll, you are not Marion.
So Marion as a whole, in your opinion,
Right.
has not spoken.
Correct. Correct. You know, let's
9% of Marion has spoken.
Not even, well, if you put on the whole population.
Oh, yeah, that's
of
true.
voters, you know, it's even less.
That's
it's
true, but
probably,
for the 9% of the Republican
Yeah.
population.
I was gonna say, if just off my head, it's probably closer to 3% of the entire voter population if you went to
Yeah.
those numbers. And
Yeah.
you are not Marion.
Yeah,
You do not represent Marion.
yeah.
Okay, so I hope we have going into this week, going into, you know, I'm waiting to hear from the Board of Elections with my independent petition to see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, the campaign kicks off. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, re-elect Summer Johnson
Yeah.
for town supervisor. If you want to continue moving forward in a more positive, hopeful,
Yeah.
generational growth.
Yeah.
And that's always, I'm gonna maintain that.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna do.
All right, well, attached to this video, I will put your contact information.
Okay, yeah,
And if
absolutely.
anyone has any questions or concerns, negative or positive,
Right, either way.
you're open to that?
Either way, I'm open door.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jen.
And it's awkward as I don't have a remote.